Hello, y'all. Just to quickly say that my software program didn't want to record video this time, so this episode is going to be another audio only. And I apologize for those of you that prefer seeing somebody's face. And I thought that I was going to be like looking at you all today, or you're going to be looking at me. So I'm sorry that yeah, you'll just have to listen to this one. So hopefully you can just close your eyes and take it in, and we can be together even in the darkness. What a good metaphor. So anyway, thanks for being here, thanks for listening, and enjoy. Bye, loving you from afar. Hello, beautiful people, how are you doing? How's life? Today I think is just going to be a simple, vulnerable share on just life, love, purpose, just being human. I was trying to really think about what do I want to talk about today, and what do I want to share, and there's so much going on that it's like what to even talk about, and what is the most important thing. And the two things that come up for me is our our state of being is so important right now. Like, it's actually less about doing and it's more about being. It's our frequency, it's our intention, it's kind of anchoring. It's like, I imagine this tornado coming through and we're needing to just anchor something to say, okay, it's a whirlwind out there, it's chaotic mess, but there's just something solid. There's a center that can be like the willow in the wind that isn't going to break and snap or get caught up into it. And as always, there's micro and macro. So for me personally, on the micro level, I'm going through some like human stuff, matters of the heart, and it's hard. It's hard. So, the other thing that I was going to speak to, beyond just like that, our frequency and our state of being is important. Being human, being honest with our humanity, being honest in about and in the areas where it's hard, or it's vulnerable, or it's tender, or it's scary, or whatever it might be for you. So today I just raw conversation, man. Let's just have a raw conversation about life and love and purpose and existence and this crazy ass world. So let's dive in. This is Corinne Bloom, and you're listening to Raw Conversations. So at the core of my work and the core of my message has always been authenticity. How do we show up authentically? How do we be our authentic self? And for me, it's not about perfection whatsoever. It's not about having all your ducks in a row and having all your shit sorted out. For me, it's being real and raw and honest and being my true self. And part of being one's true self is honoring and acknowledging, actually, before honoring, is acknowledging our human state, our feelings, our thoughts, our experience, and doing it without judgment, because judgment is often the thing that keeps us from being authentic. It keeps us from feeling liberated and being who we truly are, because all of the critical voices and the judgments and the limiting beliefs and the peer pressure or the societal pressure or the familial pressure or whatever it is comes in and says, no, you can't be this and you should be that and don't feel this. And, there's so many rules and limitations. And I once had someone say to me, Corinne, you could sell self-confidence. You could sell self-confidence, Corinne. and I did an episode on this. All self-confidence is being comfortable with yourself, like no matter what, being comfortable, being vulnerable, being comfortable being not okay, being comfortable with your emotions and your pain and your suffering and your confusion and your challenges and your foibles and your insecurities. And it's just literally being comfortable and accepting and being that kind of, just as we would imagine source, God, divine, universe, divine mother, father, to say, I love you no matter what. That's all confidence is I love you no matter what. So, okay, bit of a personal story. I don't normally get too personal. It's an interesting line because I want to show up real. And I also know that sometimes having some boundaries is important because the online world ain't so pretty, ain't so nice, ain't so respectful, So one has to be mindful. But I think what drives me is if I can make one person feel less alone, then I'm happy, then I'm doing my job. And if I can be as much as possible the embodiment of love, and I don't mean that in some kind of like holy Mother Teresa kind of way. I mean the embodiment of love that demonstrates exactly what I said, that no matter what, I love you. Right? In all my messy humanness, I love myself. Can you, in all your messy humanness, love yourself? That's the kind of love that I'm here to embody and hopefully show by example. And that's what I feel like I can be of service to, and the gift that I can give in this lifetime. Yeah. Be in a state of love. And it's not just when we're happy, and it's not romantic love and all of that stuff. So, okay. I'll go into the story if it's helpful, not into the chapter and verse of the story, but basically what's going on for me. And you'll see where you can relate, and you'll see where you can go, yeah, me too. That resonates. And let me start with a zoomed out place. I don't know a single adult that is in their maybe 40s and 50s that hasn't said at some point, man, this is not what I thought it was going to be. This is not what I thought adulting was going to be like. It's not what I thought my life was going to look like. And again, we've been placed under a huge illusion and misperception that life is this linear trajectory, that if you take all your boxes and you put all of your ducks in a row, that it's going to turn out like that and then happily ever after, right? That's the Disney bullshit that we've been fed. And we have to understand that we are so easily programmable, but that can go either way, right? We're so easily programmable through beliefs and limitations, and we've been in the inverse, right? So it's all been negative and fear-based and scarce. It's all scarcity. You're not good enough. You're not worthy enough. You're sinful. You're going to be punished. But that is a program, right? And the program affects our being. It affects ourselves. Change the program and your very existence is completely changed. All of a sudden, you're limitless. You're not focusing on the limit. You're focusing on your potential. And I think we have extraordinary potential, but we've been taught to see and notice our limitations and live within the lines of our limitations. I always use the analogy of when kids are like, drawing the line, you tell them, draw on the line, fill it, color it in and draw on the line. Fuck the lines, draw way outside of the lines, just erase the lines, do your thing. Draw from your own creative expression. And yet we're put in boxes all the time. So because of that, and especially now the state of the world, nobody thought oh yeah, this is what life was going to be like on this planet, at this point. We are in bizarre times. And since 2020, especially, it's been happening over the decades and really over the centuries. This is a long time coming. This remembrance and this awakening, whatever you want to call it. But, the last 6 years have been unrelenting, right? Unrelenting. And for some of you, the spiritual awakening might have happened decades ago. For some of you, some years ago. For some of you, some months, some days ago. Maybe some of you are still what? What is she talking about? And, we all get there. We all get on the plane eventually, is what Pam Gregory says. You know, it doesn't matter if you're on speedy boarding or just like back of the bus, you're going to get on the plane. So this feeling of like, wow, this is not what I thought it was going to be. My life isn't what I thought it was going to be. This planet isn't what I thought it was going to be. My purpose, it doesn't look like what I thought it was going to be. My relationships, my whatever, you know, there isn't any adult in their 40s and 50s that I've spoken to that hasn't questioned that. Even people that are really grateful for their lives, you know, and they have a lot of wonderful things. There's still something that's like, because there's no way that we could have ever known. There's no way we could have ever predicted. It was a complete illusion in the first place to think like, oh yeah, I'm going to know, I know exactly what it's going to look like and be able to predict. And, you know, you kind of think that it's like you get in your car and you choose a destination and you drive there, right? Like, yes, you can go there, but you have no idea. You're not in control of what's going to happen along the way, right? Both beautiful and potentially terrible. So these last 2.5 years, well, it's honestly felt much longer than that. It's been this, maybe even an 8-year cycle. Um, and that fits with the astrology, but that it's just been this excavation, as if I hadn't already done it. I feel like my whole life has been an internal journey of really like getting to know what it's like to be human. And I think that's why I can sit here and be of service, because it's like, man, I've excavated a lot. Doesn't make me perfect at all, but it's helped me understand that being human is so multifaceted and sometimes it's damn hard, you know? So, but I've been in this cycle from, you know, I guess starting back from my divorce, you know, the separation from my child's father. And, you know, that felt like a rebirth in many ways, because it's like, oh, I got to remember the woman that I was, that had really died in that relationship. And also I changed a lot, right? From kind of 28 to 38 is a huge shift in a woman's life. And I think this is a big difference between men and women, is that men can settle more into who they are and stay at a kind of more steady pace, even though of course they can grow and evolve. Of course, we're humans, we all can. But women are cyclical and we go through different phases and stages, and we die and rebirth ourselves every single month and year and decade, and you know, and all of these things, it's ongoing. We're very different creatures in that way. So I was a different woman when I left. And then I'd had, you know, maybe a year after that, I got into a relationship with a man that, yeah, completely awakened the woman in me in so many beautiful ways. And at the same time, it was one of those kind of karmic relationships where I was pulling the thorn out of the wound. I'd done so much of the wound work, but that was really like I was pulling out the thorn so that the wound would no longer ooze. You know, I could have a scar, could acknowledge and honor it for what it, you know, how it shaped me, but it was like, let's stop the oozing, right? But it was a journey. And then that ended, and then, you know, this whole journey, if you've been following me, but if you haven't, of finding home, you know, in 2.5 years of not having a home and kind of being homeless in that sense, and trying to find, yeah, where I can set up life and put down roots, and wanting to meet my partner that I feel like I've been waiting for since my 20s. Like, I remember before meeting what would be my husband and the father of my child, being, you know, saying to myself and saying to God, source, universe, I want a man. I really want a man. I want to manifest a man. And I was very good at manifesting. I manifested things like in the most uncanny way. And I've talked about how the rules of manifestation have changed. So it's like, you can't do it in the way, it doesn't work in the way that it once used to, but it was uncanny what I was able to manifest. And I remember saying, though, I really want a man. I want a conscious man. I want a man that knows himself, that has his maturity. I knew the feeling. It wasn't just like a list of, he needs to be perfect like this and this and this and this and this. It was just a man, not a boy, a man. And then I married a boy. I married a boy. And then I got in a relationship with kind of another boy. And what's interesting, and I don't want to make this episode about this, but I think women have taken a quantum leap in their spiritual and human growth. We've done a lot of work in this last decade. And men just take a little bit longer. Like we know that even like with children, that the feminine, the female, the girls tend to mature faster than the boys. And so I think there are many of us that are still waiting. And, I don't say that in judgment, but we're waiting. And if we do come across a boy, or we come across, even a man that's wanting to be a man, but can't quite fully step into it and doesn't have the same amount of strength and courage and self-knowing as his potential counterpart, a woman will just, at its worst, will face disappointments. And at its best, just be like, okay, I'm not going to step into something unless it's really at the level that I'm wanting to be in relationship and in union with, because we don't want to repeat old patterns. We don't want to repeat toxicity. We don't want to repeat trauma bonds. We don't want to repeat wounding, coming from a place of wounding. We want a mature, divine, conscious, aware, awake, self-responsible, sovereign, mature, emotionally intelligent. I know it sounds like a long list, but we don't want anything less than that. And when I say that again, please hear me, that is not asking for perfection, because we're not perfect either. We're just human. And I go back to what I said in the beginning. We're learning how to just accept our humanity and love ourselves and be the embodiment of love in the messiness of it all. So I, came back to this geographic place, I don't like to say it publicly, of where I used to live. And I left, I got out, I made it. And it felt like I escaped prison, because it was so horrible for me to be here. And then I got myself pulled back here out of necessity, survival, not having a home. And I thought I'd just be here for a month or two, and it's been 9 months. And so that in and of itself has been humbling. Like when you feel like you're going backwards, and sometimes it's like, again, I think of astrology, it's like a retrograde. You're going forward, and it's like, oh no, we're going to do a retrograde, and let's reflect, and let's think back, and let's process, and let's see, how have you grown, and what have you learned? And this is the school of life, right? So sometimes there's so many times where I'm like, man, can't this just be a little bit easier? Like even in my 20s, there are definite challenges, absolutely. But if I look at my relationships, and if I looked at certain things, there just was a greater sense of ease. I think there was a greater sense of ease across the board. Like we are in times right now where it's important. All the shit needs to come up. The shadow needs to come up. All of the dark stuff that has always been here, it has to come up. It has to crumble. We have to go through this, right? It fucking sucks, but we have to go through it. But, things felt easier, more harmonious then. And I do believe that we'll get to an evolved version of that. Again, a much, much better place. But it's like we have to go through it's a bit of a crucible right now, right? So humbling to say the least, to have to be kind of in a retrograde, but also enlightening, because I can see how much I've grown. And I can see how, I don't want to grow through suffering and challenge anymore. I'm kind of like, can we just grow through joy now, please? And I remember Richard Rudd of the Gene Keys saying that, we're going to move out of that paradigm of learning through suffering, of evolution through suffering, and that we can evolve through joy. But again, we're in the washing machine right now. So time passes, months go by, and then this man comes into my life out of left field. And it was funny, because it was kind of at this point where I'm like, what's the big deal about men in relationship? I kind of don't need one anymore. I've been wanting one. I've been manifesting. I've been, calling it in, living my life, but calling it in. But I just thought what's the big deal anyway? Right. And I think literally 2 days after that, this man comes into my life completely out of the blue. but he has a very complicated life, too complicated, actually. But, spent months seeing the potential, but also really seeing that, like, this is complicated and it doesn't really align with where I want to be and the life I want to live. And, it's hard when you have matters of the heart, because your heart will feel one thing. Maybe even your entire body and being and soul will feel one thing. And then there's like the practicality, there's the reality, there's the density, there's the 3D experience of it. And it's been a really both beautiful and pleasurable and lovely experience, and then also deeply frustrating and painful, and in moments has left me being like, fuck, I lose any bit of faith that I had in kind of, having the type of relationship that I've always felt that I would have, that I've always known to be possible. And that, I think what it is, somebody had said this, I don't remember who it was. I remember hearing this was months ago, of we are wanting to bring in a new template of relationship. We've been in this template of relationship that is much more, like I said before, codependent, toxic, dealing with our, inner child, wounding, trauma, all of this stuff. And really the template that I think we're wanting to bring in, and a lot of this is where a lot of women are, and that's why they're not wanting to just settle for the old, is it's an entirely new template of a much more spiritual relationship. And by spiritual, I don't mean some new age woo-woo, like Instagram tantra kind of bullshit. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how two sovereign beings come together, like two trees that have their own trunk, but their roots are interconnected and their branches are reaching out, creating, giving, being of service to the world. When an embodied woman and an embodied man come together, and by coming together, the third entity that they create and their connection, it creates this vehicle, this vessel, not that we can't do it independently, but it exponentiates this vessel and channel and vehicle and connection to source. And then the embodiment of that love, the embodiment of that connection, that presence, that service, that being of service to one another, to bow down in love, not in servitude in that kind of slave sense, but to bow down in servitude to love, to divine union, to source. The energy that gets emitted from that container is so extraordinarily powerful. It doesn't mean that hold on. Okay. Too many thoughts. It's so extraordinarily powerful, and it can move mountains and change the world. And our world is needing that. And that's why I said it some episodes ago. I will be the queen of my castle, the queen of my domain, until I can be in that kind of relationship, because I want to give into the world the energy of integrity, love, authenticity, truth, honesty, that purity of being that is in truth, and nothing less. I don't want to add to drama. And so it's funny, because I've been so clear about that, and then in this situation, it's like there's been an element of drama in a way, and it leaves me feeling angry and frustrated, and it doesn't bring me into a nice feeling. But anyway, let me loop back to what I said, because I just remembered what I was going to say. That beautiful, divine, pure, quote unquote, bond doesn't mean that it's perfect and Om Namah Shivaya and, perfect nonviolent communication every day. And I love you, my darling. And, it would be beautiful to be in that kind of divine union where there's ease. I do think that a relationship that is really meant to be should be easeful It doesn't mean that there aren't challenges, but it should be easeful, meaning that when challenges do arise, and they will, and you'll get on each other's nerves, and you'll have your issues, and you'll have your challenges, and you'll have the things that you need to work through. And that's totally normal because we're human. We're having a human experience. We're not just like in our God selves, right? We're having a human experience. It's totally normal and natural, but that divine container can hold it with maturity, right? It's not about the tit for tat and the immaturity that we sometimes have found ourselves in as human beings, right? It's really still seeing the divinity in that person, but also recognizing their humanity, your humanity, our humanity. It's messy, folks. It's really fucking messy, right? And so there can't be any denial. There can't be any spiritual bypassing. There can't be any sweeping under the rug. And, we're getting to this point where the frequency is becoming so refined that, as I've shared before, you won't be able to lie anymore. You won't be able to lie anymore. You won't be able to get away with it. And by you, it means all of us, everything. And we're seeing that now, right? All the lies are coming out, and there will be a hell of a lot more of them, and they will not be able, they're not making it on the plane, folks. You're only getting on the plane and going to this new destination, which is just a state of being and a frequency, but you got to leave the baggage behind, and part of that is the lies. Where have we been out of integrity? Where have we been lying to ourselves? I did an episode on that. Are you lying to yourself? And you can be lying to yourself about like your self-worth. It's a lie to believe that you're not worthy. It's a lie to believe that you're not good enough and that you're not incredible and miraculous as you are and that you deserve to be loved. All of these things are lies, right? And so we're needing to do this on the micro and the macro and on the personal and on the collective. So it means that with our relationships, like where I've come to with this experience with this man is that like, I'm done. Because if it can't be in maturity and integrity and in devotion and in truth, I don't want to do it. But it's also really hard, because when your heart feels something, you feel it. You feel it, right? So I want to talk to you, like, for you, it might not be relationship. For you, it might be something else. I mean, to be honest, I'm being hit on all fucking four foundations of like what we want in our lives other than health. Like, thank you, source, for my health and for my family's health. Thank you. But all areas of my life that are the kind of, we would say, are the fundamental areas are just like, where are they? As I've said many times, I'm learning how to walk on thin air. So life isn't what we thought it was going to be. It's not what we expected. It never was going to be what we expected. But especially now, more than ever, it's like nobody thought that this shit show was going to be our future, right? And the thing is we still don't know, like, our future could be beyond our imagination in the most beautiful of ways. It can change. I mean, that is the potency of this realm and of this human experience, is that transformation is really at the core of it, because this is the school of evolution of the soul. And so transformation is a fundamental part of that. Alchemy is a fundamental part of that. So nothing ever stays the same, right? Like, it feels like this is the never ending end of a story. It's like, just get to the end of this story, this book, so we can start a new one. Let's start writing like with fresh pages, but we have to get to the end of the story. It's just like, you feel like the author's like, come on, you're taking the piss a little bit. Let's just get to it, right? But life isn't what, you thought or hoped or expected it would be. Maybe it's amazing. Maybe you're super like grateful for it. And like, if you're on that tip and you're, in that experience, I'm so overjoyed for you. And please, your act of service can be emitting that joyfulness, that love, that gratitude, that generosity of just wonderfulness, right? Like you are contributing in that way. But if you're not in that space and you're feeling the disappointment, or maybe you're feeling the fear, or maybe you're feeling the stress or the overwhelm or the fatigue, your service to humanity is to be in the feeling of that with the most tender, loving, patient, kind state of being that you can possibly be with yourself. Because what you're offering is realness, authenticity, your humanity in the most humble, beautiful, loving, gentle, nurturing of ways, being that divine mother, father, God source that says, I love you no matter what. And in the matter of love, what do I even want to say about that? I said I was going to talk about life, love, and purpose. Love shows us how to be human, but it also reminds us how to be divine. It reminds us how to be vulnerable. It reminds us how when our heart is cracked open, we are at our most powerful. It gives us the opportunity to love and take care of ourselves, to really nurture all parts of ourselves, our inner child, our inner everything. It shows us how to be in conflict and in challenge and try to remain soft. It gives us the opportunity to be soft rather than like, fuck you and I hate you and da-da-da, you know, like the hardened, the cement wall that wants to come in, that wants to protect the survival mode, the reptilian brain. I've always felt relationship is a true spiritual teacher that can stretch us beyond belief. And it can be so uncomfortable and so painful. And yet it has this amazing, almost like turbo speed ability to propel you into growth, to propel you into your true self. And so it's a divine path of mastery, mamma mia, of mastery. Because you really have to hold responsibility and look at your shit and do it with tender love rather than criticism and judgment. And then purpose, you know, again, we've been told that purpose is status, it's success, it's what you do that you achieve and you can show something for it, money, a house, an award, recognition. That's not what purpose is. Purpose doesn't need to be all like, you know, doesn't have to have lights and glitter and confetti. It can be very simple. Purpose is, what did your soul come here to experience and to give and be of service to through and by way of that experience? You know, I could say when I was younger, like I thought my purpose was to be like a, you know, prima ballerina. That's what I was being groomed for. And then when I had the injury and I left the ballet, then it was like, oh, you're going to be the next Martha Graham and you're going to be this amazing choreographer or this actress or coach or author or singer, or whatever. You know, there's lots of things that I've dipped my toes into. But the medium never mattered. The medium never mattered. That was just for me to experience and enjoy. What mattered was the embodiment, the message, the what I was wanting to give through it. And that was always, 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 always to have a positive effect on humanity, to light a spark of love and truth and authenticity and realness and humanity and acceptance within someone, to touch upon their humanity and their divinity and to say, hey, you're not alone. I'm here feeling this with you. Let's feel it together. We all have our own story, that we're having this human experience side by side, parallel. And so much of the pain that many humans feel is they feel alone with it. They feel like something's wrong with them. I mean, so many times have I had people get on the phone and say, what's wrong with me? How do I fix this? There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing to fix. You're not broken. You're just human and you just need loving attention. from yourself for yourself, to accept all parts of your humanity, to remember your divinity, to remember who you truly are, your soul, your authentic soul. So your purpose is more a state of being. Your purpose is more a message. Your purpose is more your service to humanity. And don't underestimate how your state of being and the way that you show up with people and for people and as yourself, don't underestimate the profound effect that that has on people. It could even just be a smile. If you've been following these episodes, you know that I told the story about the man that, jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge, and his promise to himself would be that if somebody had looked at him in the eye, maybe smiled, he wouldn't have done it. And he didn't get that. And so he jumped and he survived. So he obviously could tell the story. But the effect, the profound effect of presence, of looking into someone's eyes, of smiling, of being the embodiment of love. And what that is, all that is your authentic self. Your true soul self is love. And so we're learning to be in a state of being, and that's what's going to change the trajectory of life. It's what's going to put at some point this world to right. And it's going to put love in integrity, relationship in integrity, community in integrity, societies, quote unquote, in integrity. We have been so far outside of integrity because we've been living a lie. So this time is a fine-tuning and a redirecting and a recentering into integrity, authenticity, truth, love, the embodiment of those things, not just the idea, not the philosophy of it. We can't just talk about it. We have to be it. And then everything that we do from that point of being, from that place of being, becomes an expression of that. And so that which we do has integrity, has authenticity, has generosity, has kindness, is genuine. So that's life, love, and purpose from where I'm standing in this moment. And of course, it can be so much more than that, but also it's so simple. So I think the only thing that we can do right now is firstly accept where we are. That doesn't mean apathy, but we have to accept like, whoa, okay, we're in the washing machine. We're on the bloody spin cycle. Can you be real? Can you be raw? Can you be vulnerable? Can you keep your heart open? Can you be and live in truth? Can you be honest with yourself? Can you be honest with others? Can you hold your humanity with tenderness right now, no matter what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what you're experiencing? Go gently, go kindly, go lovingly with yourself and with others. And just know that you're not alone. We're traversing the macro and the micro, the personal and the collective. And sometimes life's a bitch and then you die, but really you don't. But it's all an experience, And I don't know, for me, it's like even just speaking about this, there's an honesty and there's a humility that comes through that just allows our being to exhale. It's allowed me to exhale. So thank you for just being with me. And if you've made it to the end of this, then thank you. Thank you for your presence. It is felt. Even if we're not looking at each other eye to eye in present moment, meaning, in person, in present moment, things are timeless and spaceless, and we're here together, always and everywhere. So as always, take it or leave it as feels right for you, and loving you from afar. Bye. You've been listening to Raw Conversations with Corinne Bloom. Thanks so much for showing up, listening in, and being a part of the conversation with me.